Hare Krishna. Welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita, here it is. Because we have it, Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Labangalatika.
Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang.
So we are coming towards the end of the 11th chapter. It's a very interesting chapter, a very overwhelming chapter actually, especially if one takes it seriously and not as some kind of metaphor. Krishna is not really doing metaphors. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I hope, if you haven't already read it, that after you have become, getting Bhagavad-gita as a firm ground philosophically, then stepping onto the Bhagavatam is very desirable. And then there is one story that is a metaphor, and then it's clearly said, this is a metaphor. So when Krishna shows his universal form, that is actually Krishna himself showing his universal form. And Arjuna have seen it and appreciated it, and also felt like, yeah, but I actually like you better, Krishna. So today we are reading text 49, and I think we have Krishna speaking. Yes, we definitely have Krishna speaking. Mate vyatha macha vimudha bhavo drishtva rupang ghoram idring mamedam vyapeta bhi pritamana punastvang tad eva me rupamidang prapasya. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbance. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Yes, so that is like one of the present-day complaints about religion. And who is this God, and why should we do what he tells us? But that is actually a two-way street. It is a relationship. And especially in this material world, when we have lost touch with that relationship with Krishna, then religion appears to be very much about rules and rituals and that good and bad, that sort of thing. And that is supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to help us get off this material platform, so that we are able to purify our entire existence, but also our perception of reality, so that we'll be able to perceive the spiritual aspect of life. But it's never forced. It's actually really never forced, because if it would have been forced, we wouldn't be in the material world. No, Krishna gives us that freedom, and here he has shown Arjuna the universal form, which Arjuna appreciated, and at the same time, okay, thank you. Can we stop this now? And that's what Krishna says, and I'm reading the purport. In the beginning of Bhagavad-gita, Arjuna was worried about killing Bhishma and Drona, his worshipful grandfather and master. But Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When the sons of Dhritarashtra tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly of the Kurus, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty, they should be killed. So we are in the Vedic times, and whereas in the modern day, I don't think I could be fully on board with the death penalty, because this world and the the system with justice and court and so on, it is not perfect. So in the Vedic times, and I mean in this time also, when we take the law of karma into account, if a person has committed something as strongly carrying such strong negative karma as murder, for instance, there are other things, then if he gets in his punishment from the state, finishes this life, then it also finishes that karma, and he's free to start from his next life. So it's like a balancing system, but we can't just throw it in. Like there are other things like that in the old days, in the very old days, that wouldn't work now, because we're society is different, we are different. So, but in this case, if somebody does something very, very wrong, like this story is, we can't avoid Mahabharata. I didn't want to start on the platform of Mahabharata because Mahabharata is so complicated and Bhagavad-gita is so straightforward. But it is based in the Mahabharata, and the Pandavas were the rightful heirs, I think is the pronunciation, to the kingdom, not only because they had the right to have a lot of power and riches, but mostly because they had the duty to continue to look after the country, look after the citizens, look after the state of affairs. And their cousins were constantly plotting. It seems to be the main theme in the Mahabharata. Different ways, trying to kill them, trying to cheat them. And here we had a gambling match. And we're thinking, oh, these Hare Krishnas, they don't gamble, do they? And we don't. But in the Kshatriya's codes of honor, one very important thing was that you cannot avoid a challenge. So if someone challenges you to fight for the kingdom, you can't say, well, I don't want to. No, you have to stand up and you have to be prepared for that sort of thing. So gambling is another such challenge. They were challenged to gamble with the cousins, with the Duryodhana in the front, and they had brought in an uncle who had some dice that would give the result that he wanted. So they kept losing. They kept losing everything. And at one point, they brought on the Vagar. I am not so familiar with gambling, as you can see, but they brought on the point of saying, now you lost everything, the kingdom, your own freedom, everything is lost. So bring in your wife, Draupadi, and if you win, you get everything back, but if you lose, you will lose her also. So they brought Draupadi in on the stage, and she was so upset, because it's not right. It is not right. In no... interpretation can you come up with a point where it is right to gamble and win another's wife. So Draupadi is turning to everyone in the room and saying, how are you allowing this? How are you allowing this? You are supposed to be defenders and of everything that is right and holy. She turned to each person, and among those persons here we have, of course, Bhishma and Drona. And they didn't say anything. She turned to her husbands. How can you do this? Who did you have? And then she asked, had they lost themselves first? Which they had. This was the last gamble. And then another one, these cousins, there's many of them. I think there's 100. Dushashan, who is the most coarse fellow, comes on the stage and tries to rip her sari off, and she tries to hold on to it. You don't want to stand in front of an assembly and have somebody pull your clothes off. It is horrible. And at that point, Draupadi realized nobody would come up to her defense. She didn't have the strength on her own, so she turned to Krishna. Krishna, I am helpless. There's nothing I can do here. And then Krishna became her sari. This is one of those little vignettes you often see depicted. Draupadi is standing there with her arms, both arms lifted, praying to Krishna for protection. And then Krishna protected her. But the other persons in the room, they did not do their duty. So now they are facing their own just karma. And normally we don't know these things because karma is somewhat hidden from us. We can understand it from the scriptures and we can appreciate the knowledge, but to see it actually, like if you're a gamer and you see you're in combat and you see that you are hitting this monster and you see that you are receiving hits, but you don't have the full picture, you don't know exactly how far you can go. But the person who coded the game, they can see it. They can see exactly where you're at, and they're saying, I'm saying, to protect myself, I will give up this game now. Whereas the person who can see behind the code could say, no, just one more hit and you will win. It's no problem. So, if you're not a gamer, forgive me. But this analogies, they are so practical. They will actually describe the situation. So Krishna is standing there, and Krishna, who himself expands the super soul in everyone's heart, he knows everything. He knows exactly what these persons were going to receive. So he's telling Arjuna, it is not a problem for your activities and your karma here. It is actually fact. These people have been killed by time, by the influence of time. This is the situation. And you can step up and be part of this fight that you have been challenged to in order to protect your kingdom. Or you can step away, but understand that there is no fault on your part for doing your duty, especially in this case. That scene was shown to Arjuna because devotees are always peaceful and they cannot perform such horrible actions. The purpose of their revelation of the universal form was shown. Now Arjuna wanted to see the four-armed form, and Krishna showed him. A devotee is not much interested in the universal form, for it does not enable one to reciprocate loving feelings. Either a devotee wants to offer his respectful, worshipful feelings, or he wants to see the two-handed Krishna form so that he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, so we keep coming back to this, like the difference between official religion and actual Krishna consciousness, God consciousness. Religion is a good step. Religion brings us closer to God, but sometimes it's, it is very much tinged or, conditioned by the culture, the time, so many things. It is helpful. It brings us closer to spiritual awakening. But the next step, the step where we as spiritual persons actually start to relate to Krishna as a person in love again, that is not covered by the rituals of religion. So this is so in our traditions, and it is certainly so in the Vedic traditions. We have the yoga forms. They look different. They have different goals. But the goal of all the yoga system is to come to that purified place where we're able to take the next step closer to Krishna. And with Bhakti Yoga, we start with that step. And with Arjuna, he doesn't try to achieve that step. He's already connected to Krishna in that loving service. But he's in this situation, and he's also bringing up questions for our sake so that we can understand things better. But now he wants Krishna to come back. I'll read one more text. Sanjaya vacha ityarjunang vasudevas tathoktva svaktang rupang darshayama sabhuya ashvasayama sachabhitamenang bhutva purna saumyavapur mahatma. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. So now we have Sanjaya again. And if you've been with me all the way from the beginning of Bhagavad-gita, you have already met Sanjaya again. But if you're new, which wouldn't be surprising, because after all, this is the end of chapter 11, I'll tell you again that we're coming out of the Mahabharata, and this battlefield of Kurukshetra is just one of many points in the histories. And the perspective here is from Dhritarashtra, who is the father of the cousins of Arjuna. So he's blind, and he's in his room. I'm not sure. He's in a building. He's not on the battlefield. And he's asking his secretary Sanjaya, who has spiritual vision, mystical vision. So he's able to see and hear what's going on the battlefield. So therefore, everything that goes on in the Bhagavad-gita is spoken from Sanjaya's perspective. But only occasionally do we come back to Sanjaya Vacha, what Sanjaya said. Usually we just hear what he's relating, what Krishna and Arjuna are saying. So here Sanjaya is speaking again. So purport: when Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as four-armed Narayana. But when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing a four-handed form, but since Arjuna asked to see his four-handed form, Krishna also showed him this form again, and then showed himself in his two-handed form. The word Saumya Vapu is very significant. Saumya Vapu is a very beautiful form. It is known as the most beautiful form. When he was present, everyone is attracted simply by Krishna's form. And because Krishna is the director of the universe, he just banished the fear of Arjuna, his devotee, and showed him again his beautiful form of Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita 5.38 it is stated, Premanyana churita bhakti vilochanena. Only a person whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love can see the beautiful form of Sri Krishna. Yes, so we come back to this again because this is at the core. This is at the very core. Sometimes we hear Bhagavad-gita explained as encouraging karma yoga, encouraging duty. It does encourage all these things, but without that connection to bhakti, it is all useless. And we will hear that later on in the chapter 18. We will come to chapter 18 eventually, where Krishna does say that, give up all religion and just surrender to me alone. This cannot happen in a vacuum. Krishna's instruction, Krishna's how to surrender to Krishna, that is also directed by him, and it also comes out of the scriptures. But that understanding, there are many things happening, there are many structures, there is much dharma to be learned, and in those days and in those circles, certainly this was the case, more than it is maybe for us nowadays. And yes, dharma is good, and adharma is bad, because it creates so much disturbance in this world. But the goal of all of it is for the soul to be able to connect to Krishna once again. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to read Bhagavad-gita and connect to Krishna once again. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm in my home, and I don't have the same setup as usual, but we're trying to continue with our Bhagavad-gita during these times. Thank you so much for watching with me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare